Hello everyone, this is Mohammed from Python Ninja YouTube channel, and today we will learn together for loop in Python. For loop in Python or any programming language is a programming mechanism by which we can execute like a line of code or a block of code for a fixed number of times through an iterative approach. We learned together if condition, and we learned from if condition that I can use it if I want to execute a block of code or even single line of code within the if condition, but for one time. After reaching the condition within if, the program will finish the execution. Then we learn together while loop, and we learned from while loop that if I have an infinite number of times that I want to engage my code with, I go for while loop. So if condition execute for one time, while loop execute for an infinite period of time unless I define a condition that will terminate while loop. The difference between if condition and while loop and for loop it used to fix to run the code like for a fixed number of iterations. For example, I want to execute this code for 5 times for for 6 iterations. So here we have a limited number of iterations that doesn't exist in while loop and in if condition, and that doesn't mean we can only use for condition. Like in the complete application, we will use if condition, we will use while loop, we will use for loop. All of these mechanisms will be integrated to have a good application. Okay. Before I start describing while loop, I want to describe briefly a class in Python. So we have function in Python and we have a class. The function is simple. It contains like a block of code that executable many times. We can call this, and we will learn that in the next few tutorials. And the class, it comprises like more than one function. It can be also one function, but in a class we call it method. Okay, range is a class in Python. It's like built in a class, and it gives the ability to define like sequence of numbers. From this sequence, for loop can take these numbers and iterate with this range of number. For example, let us to define the syntax of the range. Range is written as this. Range, it is reserved in Python. Here we have the starting point of range function. I want this range function to start from 1, and I want it to stop at 21, but consider 21 is exclusive and 1 is inclusive, meaning that the iteration will stop at 21, but the result will be till 20. So the visualized result will be from 1 to 20, and because the index is taken a +1 and this +1 is not inclusive, and the default step is 1. Okay. So I cannot also, so this is the main syntax that I can define if I want to use like range of numbers and I want to iterate over this range of numbers. Remember the first one here, the first digit here, or the first place in range is inclusive. It will be included as a result in the result, and the last one, it will not be included, but it will include the last this 21 minus 1. So this will not be included, but what will be included is the 21 minus 1. If it will be 50, it will result to me 49, and like this. Okay. So even the step here, the step by default, you can remove the step, it is 1. And if you want to have range of number like evenly separated by 2, so you can use 2. Let us focus now by the number. If I want to visualize this number, it will not print because it is a class and the result will be like this. What we can do to print this range, at least to say this range of number, we can cast this to list. List is a Python data structure we will describe after finishing this series of tutorials for loop, and we will describe list and tuple and dictionary, of course, in a comprehensive way. Let us see how the range looks like. It is like a series of numbers started from 1. This is inclusive, and this is not included or exclusive, and it ends with this value -1. Okay. How can I use the range with for loop? Usually, range is engaged with for loop at many iteration. Okay, remember that for loop in our tutorials, in the next tutorial and in the till the end of this series of tutorials I give for learning Python, is used to iterate over list. Okay, so this is called list of numbers. Okay, it is used to iterate over range, and this is mainly used with this range, especially if you want to do some like random estimation or random iteration. It also used to iterate over a string of letters or characters, or any sequence. Since a string is sequence, we can like define any sequence. Okay, for example, sequence of bits. We can do iteration. So what the meaning of the iteration is to go to each value, do any operation, then go to the next value, then go to the next, till reaching the end. Or we can do like iteration over enumerate of indices. We will learn later, if not in this tutorial, in the next tutorial, what I mean of enumerate of indices. So this value in Python, it has index, and this index, if the first index is 0, then it goes to 1. So we can iterate over even the indices, okay, using enumerate function. And in general, any iterable object, the above are called iterable objects, even list or range, string, or even a tuple. We will learn together how can we iterate over in dictionary, in keys, or how to retrieve values. All of these will be covered, but please take this step by step and focus of what I give you. So we learned now that in Python there is like an internal class, let's say it's function, that can be used to like generate sequence of numbers. Okay, and I can iterate of these numbers. Okay, how can I use this in for loop? For example, I want to iterate for this range 4. This is the syntax of 4. I can define I, you can define X, you can define Z, that's not matter, but please don't define, for example, for Mohammed or for anyone. Use the right names or the right variable naming when you do programming. Okay, so I can say I, it's like integer, but I use I. Okay, I say in range. This is the syntax, so I use in range to like have iteration over a range of numbers. I want to start by 1. I want to stop by 21. The step is 1. This is optional and can be removed. Okay, what I want to do inside this iteration, I want something to be executed at 20 times, and this is the idea behind for loop, because it executes the code for fixed iteration, and I define here the iteration, which is 20. What I will do, I want to print I itself. So I is defined as this. Okay, so we have I. Okay, I in this list, for example, but here it will be inside the range function. Before unpacking this to the list, unpacking them to this number to a list, So I will be 1, I will be 2, I will be 3. When I say print I, this means I want to print these numbers, okay? And after finishing this for loop, I want to print something like done, okay, just to see if the execution has been completed. I run this, I will see here the result. So it will print 1 for me because the first I is 1, then what is the next and then it choose the first one, okay, and it print it. Then we stay in the same loop. This is loop. This is the meaning of loop. We still like rounding, and we still cycling, okay. And the next iteration then will be 2. This one will be 2 until reaching the last one, the last index -1, okay, the last value -1, okay, and then the program is executed. The beauty of for loop and range function, I can use them in a reversed way. How can I do that? I just close this one, okay, and I use in Python, for example, if you have an application like countdown, for example, for numbers, you don't need to go from 1 to 3, you want to go 3 to 1. So you can print them from the highest to the lowest, okay. So I can start from second 20, second 18 till reaching the last second. If I want to include 0 second to do something, I can include 0 here. This is what I mean of the reverse looping, okay, or reverse iteration. Now we learn together how can we loop over range of numbers. We learn also how can I do reverse looping, how can invert the iteration. I can do also the same thing here for reverse iteration without using or the need to reverse function. I can use it like this. First of all, I want to start by 20. 20 is inclusive here, okay? And I want to end by 0. 0 is exclusive. So when I will print here, it will be printed from 20 to 0. But I cannot do that. If I want to execute this, it will not do, it will do nothing, since it will start from 0, okay, and it will go for like infinite execution. I have to do -1 in this step. So we start from 20, then the minus step is 19, okay, and then 18, and then 17, okay. But if I will do this syntax without using -1, it will not go to the end condition 0. It goes to 21, but that's not in the syntax itself, okay. So I use -1, then I achieve also reverse counting or reverse iteration. If I want to include this 0 also, because it's not included here, as we said, usually the second number is not included, but it included it -1, okay. So we can include 0 if you have like counter, but you have to include -1 here. This is different. This is different than this. This is the step. This is the start. This is the end. The end value. Okay, but usually the end value should be given minus the value -1. We don't expect that value will be printed as it. Also, we can let us see how can we iterate using 2 steps. For example, okay, instead of 1 steps. Okay, I start from 1, then I neglect 2 because there is a step of 2. Then we go to 3, then we go to 5, we go to 7. Question: write a simple Python code that will iterate over odd number. this is the simple execution because all of these numbers are odd. Even if I want to add 100 here, it will finish the 99 and you cannot find any even number here. So this is useful practice for you to test yourself by, for example, writing a Python that will code that will retrieve the whole odd number. Even if you want to insert here, for example, 1,000, it will go to execution. Okay, what if I want to print, instead of printing odd number, I want to print the even number? So I have to change in the code instead of starting from 1, because here we start, so let us to say 20, 21, just to keep it. I want to go on the top. Yeah. Because we started from 1, then we counted 2 steps, it will be 3. Now I will start from 2, then it will print the whole even number and then in this range. Okay, so this is another useful implementation to retrieve the even number. That's all about for loop, but the story is still not completed for while loop because we want to learn two fundamental factors or two fundamental part of the code in for loop. This is like it's a programming mechanism in for loop. The first one is continue. Okay, what is the continue? Continue is used in conditional for loop. How can we interpret that? If I have this range, I want to iterate by one step. For example, if I will reach the number 13, if I equal 13, this is what is like Bythonically, I mean, if the iteration reach to number 13, what I will do or what the program will do nothing. Doing nothing meaning that I want to use continue. But if for any number other than 13, I use else. What I will do, I will print that number. Again, we have an iteration here that goes from 1 to 21. In case of the index will reach to the number 13, the program will do nothing, will override, will not look to this number. But for any number other than 13, like 1, 2, 3, 4, till 12, and from 14 to 20, what we will do? We will do break. Let us to see. So we printed from 1 to 12, but 13 does not exist because of continue. I add a condition here. If this variable will reach to 13, please don't do anything. Override. Don't look to this and continue execution. Okay, that's useful when you have like an application, and if you reach, for example, to some measurements, then don't look to this measurements. For example, you have a marathon, and if you reach, for example, 2 kilos, don't look to this 2 kilos and look to for miles or kilometers like this. Okay, the second mechanism we can use, the second programming mechanism is the break. Okay, break means that if you reach to a condition, a break the whole iteration, don't go beyond this one and show me the result. For example, if I equal 13, I will not continue. I want to break. Okay, break mean stop everything and go to the last line and print done. Don't print 14, for example, which is different than continue. Continue, if it reaches the condition, the program will not look to this and will continue execution. But when we use a break, when we reach to the condition and the state is equal. For example, I will be equal 13 and 13 equal 13, then the program will be break. And we can see here, because of I equal 13, okay, then it break, and the execution break before printing I equal 13. Okay, consider that. If you are equal 15, it will not be printed. The print will be till 14. That's guy what I can give you for loop. In the next tutorial, we will learn together nested loop in Python. How can I build for loop inside for loop, or while loop inside for loop? This is called nested loop, and because of the pairs in the word are common as one, and this is one can be nested even while loop can be nested. Thank you guys.